So today you will get a chance to have a look at a walking, talking, breathing youth work, youth justice classroom, which will be great. So this is a class that is doing a dual diploma in youth work and youth justice, and they're currently up to their 8th module out of 12. And this one is a youth mental health module. So far these students have covered a lot of things in relation to the way in which they engage with young people, lots of stuff around the legalities of working with young people, case management. And they've just finished a topic on trauma and attachment, so they're now building on their knowledge around mental health. So we're looking at it from the point of view of general ideas around mental health, but also the applicability to the youth work context. So it'll be a really good opportunity for you to see the class in action and see the discussion around youth mental health in this particular environment. The course is getting close to the end, so we had our placement officer come in today, which was really great, and our students heard a lot about their placement, which is coming up at the end of June. So this course is almost 3/4 finished, and we do have another course that's coming up on the 19th of March, so it's not too late to enrol. So if you're interested in what you see and you like what you see, please think about enrolling with us and starting on your youth work and youth justice journey with us.
Okay, so which course are you studying here at Ikon?
I'm studying youth work and justice.
Great,
Yes.
thank you. And what has brought you to study here at Ikon?
Well, I was studying at uni before, and I found that it was like really kind of disconnected a little bit because I'd be in a lecture theatre, and I felt like the teacher would be so far away and everyone would just kind of like turn up, and it wasn't very like connected, I don't think. But my housemate studied here like a year or two ago, and she loved it and she said lots of things about Shannon. So that's mainly why I started here, because I thought that it seemed like a much better environment, I think, for learning. So yeah.
Fantastic.
That's right.
And what's one thing that you've learnt since studying with Ikon? And that's a question for both of you.
I've learnt a lot about myself, I think. Like, I like that the course more focuses on learning about yourself and being able to integrate everything properly, rather than just teaching you the skill and then you just finish your course and then you haven't really processed everything properly.
Thanks, Jess.
That's okay.
For me, I'm a parent, so I've learned quite a number of things that I can use with my kids, understanding how to be a good parent.
Great.
Yeah.
And is that the main reason that you're studying?
Not really, I'm just saying on top of what I've learned, I've come to learn certain things that I didn't realize that I would learn them here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been really good. And the other thing is, of course, socializing with many different people from different aspects of, different fields and all that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And in terms of career and career pathway for both of you, what sort of career are you aspiring to have from here?
I was thinking like working as a youth counsellor, sort of that sort of role in like a school, or working with kids that might have sort of like disabilities, as well as working in youth work as well. So I was thinking mainly just like working in a school or working in some sort of like emergency care, like Baptist care or something like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And how about for you, Natalie?
For me, working with kids it's always been my focus, because I think it's a very, very important stage in life, and I want to support those kids who can't have that chance to become better people in the future.
Great.
Yeah, so I feel it's very important too. Yeah.
Fantastic. And would you recommend studying the course here at Ikon?
Very much, yes.
I already have like referred a few friends, but yeah, I found that when Shannon was discussing like in our initial intake, she was like, how did everyone sort of find out about Ikon? And most people have been referred by friends and things like that, I found. So yeah, definitely would recommend for sure.
Fantastic. And is there anything else that you wanted to add?
It's just like family for me.
Yeah.
The first day I walked in, I just felt a part of it.
It's quite
from everyone, Yeah.
It's like quite open and friendly.
Very
I
friendly.
find. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So bipolar, signs and symptoms.
we have common signs of bipolar and depression
Mhm.
include feeling hopelessness, sad and empty, irritability,
Mhm.
and feeling fatigue
Yeah.
and loss of energy. Because they're stressed, they can't sleep, lack of sleep, and also one of the major symptoms, sleeplessness,
Mhm.
and yeah.
Mhm. And in terms of the criteria, did you guys get a bit of a feel for that? Or is it sort of-
Kind of.
yeah.
They said it's caused by two major factors, so hormonal imbalance or environmental factors such as
Mhm.
abuse, loss, mental stress, or suffering from a traumatic event.
Yeah. Which is very consistent with what we've been talking about, broadly speaking, in terms of the emergence of mental illness. Yeah.
From my understanding, from what I've read, it says symptoms last for at least 4 days before they start to diagnose.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they got to, because with bipolar, it's kind of a up or down mood.
Mhm.
So if it just lasts a day, it could just be them feeling it for the day.
A normal fluctuation
yeah.
of mood. Yes.
Yeah, so that was my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, there's different particular illnesses that will require different time frames, around, well, say with depression, for example, we need to have experienced like completely compromised downward mood for at least 2 weeks consistently. Okay. So in terms of diagnosing something like bipolar, which is reflective of, quite high and low mood and those types of things, we would want to see enough of a sustained fluctuation before we would be concerned that there was anything that was required a diagnosis of bipolar. Yeah. Good.
But it's just the same DSM test. They use that when one person has at least one episode of a manic or hypomanic state.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't quite sure what DSM meant, but it seems like it's just like a question type tick box.
DSM is a diagnostic statistician manual, so that's the manual that's used predominantly by mental health practitioners to develop a set of criteria before they would make an informed clinical diagnosis of a mental illness. Yeah. So again, we've talked about this morning, that's in our role as youth workers, that's not our job. Our job is not to use DSM criteria to be able to confirm a diagnosis of mental illness, but it is useful for us to understand what other clinicians might be doing to determine a diagnosis, and then how that might impact on you and your understanding of the things that you could do in your role as a youth worker, which is predominantly around, helping to relieve some of the symptoms associated with whatever the illness is that they've been diagnosed with, which is by and large that stuff we talked about this morning around protective behaviours, encouraging pro-social relationships and activities and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Can I share something that I've just sort of run across?
Yeah.
So it's on mayoclinic.org, something or other.
Yeah.
And it's just like this outlined area of complications where it's sort of stating mental illness is a leading cause of disability.
Mm-hmm.
Untreated mental illness can cause severe emotional, behavioural and physical health problems. Complications sometimes linked to mental illness include unhappiness and decreased enjoyment of life, family conflicts, relationship difficulties, social isolation, problems with tobacco, alcohol and other drugs, missed work, legal or financial, poverty or homelessness, self-harm, harm to others, including suicide or homicide, weakened immune system, so your body has a hard time resisting infections, heart disease and other medical conditions, and then that list can go on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read that, it got me thinking, because it's true, because when we're happy, our immune system actually works more effectively and our body actually can fight a lot of disease and work more productively. But when we are unhappy, our immune system actually struggles. Absolutely. And we can get sicker and our heart rate can, like our blood pressure and our heart can struggle, and so many different factors are involved in that. So
absolutely,
when I read that, I was like, that's actually a really valid point.
Yep, and that's why I guess it's even more important for us to understand that, how we spoke this morning about the biopsychosocial model and how these things interrelate. That's saying exactly that. My biology affects my psychology and my capacity to operate socially, and vice versa, all in between.
And it all just starts to shut down. It all starts to affect everything else.
For sure. Yep. So it's good to have an appreciation of that and what that could look like from a sign or symptomatic point of view as well, which is good.
Basically, overall, the same thing with everyone is the consistency of it. So
Yes.
pretty much, it's us spotting a consistent thing in someone.
Yep.
You notice
That's
a pattern,
exactly
and
right.
then maybe then a referral or something like that.
Correct.
Or perhaps
Absolutely.
even the
Yep.
velocity. So
Yes.
say it is a physical symptom more so as opposed to the mental. So they're complaining about back pain all the time, or stomach aches,
Mhm.
or they're not sleeping properly, and that's consistent. And
Yeah.
you're thinking, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's start, process of elimination here.
Yep.
You've got central nervous system
There's
issues,
so
or is
much
it
going on.
pinched
Exactly.
nerve or something?
And do you remember when we talked about this a while back now when we did the child protection module? We talk about in child protection, we look for, you recently did child's environments too, Laura, and we talk about clusters and patterns. So we talk about the fact that, sometimes you might observe something in isolation and in a one-off kind of scenario might not lead us to be concerned at all. But if we notice something over a bit of a period of time, or we start to notice something's happened in a fairly sustained fashion, so I've seen little Johnny for case management, and every week he describes this feeling of I haven't slept, can't eat, those types of things. If he told us that once off, we'd be like, oh, what's going on? Have a bit of a chat, try to unpack that with him. But if it's consistent, then it gives us cause to go, maybe there's something a bit up with that, and we need to think about a referral or have more of a conversation about that. Yeah, good one. So that just gave you an opportunity, I guess, to sort of start looking at the overarching kind of sign and symptom set that's sort of fairly common in the field of mental health and mental illness. And also got you thinking about your written assignment too, which we'll talk about before you leave today, which is you selecting a particular mental illness and unpacking it in pretty much the same fashion that you just did then. But what you'll do is add a little bit more to that in terms of treatment and case planning and interventions that might be used in that space as well. So we'll talk more about that later, but that gave you a little bit of an insight into what your assignment needs to look like.
Do we actually deal with that though?
Yep, so that's what we've talked about this morning, that we don't deal with that type of work. We need to be informed by an understanding of that stuff. So what you'd be talking about is, when I look at something like depression has these particular signs and symptoms, for example. The research tells me that a particular treatment that's used effectively in depression is cognitive behavioural therapy. Cognitive behavioural therapy is that. So you're just expanding your research understanding around the concept. You're not employing CBT, of course, but you're just starting to think about that so that you understand a little bit more about what some of the young people that you're working with might be dealing with. And that's really, really helpful, even if you're not in it. If they're using things that are CBT orientated, like terms that you kind of semi-understand, you can reinforce that and be really supportive of that in that space. So it's asking you to sort of step outside, explore it a little bit, and then kind of drill it down to think about your role in that as a youth worker as well. Awesome. Thank you very much for that.